Hello there. Hello there. Hello there. Hello there. So I'm just going to give it several minutes before we kickstart. Hopefully, more people is going to join in for the second session of this series of webinars that I'm hosting, hopefully once every single month. And of course, even if you have registered and is unable to make it real time today, I will be sending out the video link for those of you who are interested in watching back the stream and join in for the conversation and hopefully connect with me over this video. So, ready to get started. Hopefully, more people might be coming in and checking out and seeing what is going to be explained today here on our second webinar, which is talking about how I set up the content calendar as a content marketer. So again, a little bit of a self-plug. We are hoping to host these monthly webinars every single month, and hopefully we have more people to join in and chime in and give me any comments or ideas as to what you guys would like to hear more as topics relevant to storytelling, content marketing, and so on and so forth. So let's cut the chase and get right into the content for today. Now, when we're talking about setting up content calendars as a content marketer or just on its own, setting up a content calendar, it's something that every small business owner, personal branding, KOL, influencer, or anybody who's just hoping to utilize and increase their reach online and create content needs to do. And I believe there are a lot of different guides and tutorials online where people can get to learn how to set up content calendars. But there is definitely a reason why I've decided to deep dive into this topic myself and share a bit of my insights, because there are a lot of executional ways to do this. However, there is a smarter way to do it, something that's more simple, something that is more easier to manage, something that can be done every single month consistently, regardless of you being as small as a team of one like myself. For those of you who are new to this webinar, you would expect maybe to see presentation slides or a moderator, things like that. I really want to switch it up so that it's really a conversation between myself and the audience, like we are really talking to each other. So there will be no slides, but I can promise and guarantee you there is going to be something that is very important for you to take away today. Now, when we're talking about content calendars, obviously self-explanatory. The term means a calendar, which is most likely online, maybe offline, maybe somewhere written on a piece of paper or in your Excel, or if you also use what we call a content management tool, a content management system, an online calendar that is linked to automatically help you publish posts on directly on your feed on different various social media platforms. Now, the mode of how you create your content calendar does not matter for our discussion today. Regardless of you using an Excel, using pen and paper, using an online tool, all of this, what I'm going to share with you, will work. So don't be afraid to think, hey, I don't have any what we call marketing technology tools. It doesn't matter. It's really about the theory and the strategy and the easy way to help you execute your content calendar consistently every single month. So when I'm going to get started is I want to tease you up with this concept. What you would expect to find is the rule of three. The rule of three in this video. I will deep dive into it. Literally, the rule of three incorporates three things. So there is going to be a list of three whereby each of them follows what we call a rule of three. So if you're familiar with the way that I kind of share my ideas or when I am interacting with other people through educational programs, I always leave them with the pointers right at the beginning, so you know what to expect. So for today, we're talking about the rule of three under three specific points. Now let's jump into the first bit about how to properly set up a content calendar. Like myself as a content marketer or a solopreneur or an individual, regardless of what the tool that you use to log and create your calendar. The number one rule of three is that you need what we call three content pillars. You need three content pillars. So different from mostly what you can probably find on Google or maybe like myself through AI search now, when you're looking at content calendar setup, they go straight into, okay, fill in your content with blah, blah, blah on blah, 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 because this is the best time or the best posting or the best channel or the best tool. What I'm telling you is block those out first and just focus on this. Rule of three, step one, you need three pillars. So what does that actually mean? You need three content pillars. Regardless of what your business is, whether you're a person that is just trying to build your own personal branding, or you're a company, or even if you're a big conglomerate or you're working at a big company, everybody should always start with three content pillars. Now let's take a deep dive as to what that means. So a content pillar, let's just break it down literally. Content meaning whatever that you're posting, content. Pillar means the thing that holds up a building, right? That's a pillar, the thing that holds it up. Now imagine your business as being a building, and you have, what I'm trying to say here is three pillars. You have three pillars. So let's just simplify that and think of it as more of a 2D building and an easy, simple building. You have three pillars that's holding up the roof. The roof in a content marketing sense is your brand message. So what is your brand trying to say? Now, that does not equate to your mission statement, your value statement, your unique selling point, all of that stuff. None of that, not that. And also, it is not a slogan. So it's not the Just Do It by Nike. It's not that. What it means is, what is a message you want your target audience to understand and take away? What is that one key message? What is that one thing you want to say? Now, obviously, it's quite hard to think about it right now, but what I can give you is a reference as to myself. As a content marketer who runs a boutique consultancy, my brand key message is I help entrepreneurs create content strategy that drives growth. Very simple one sentence that really lives into the grain and the brain and the essence of your brand. What is that one message? And if you're an individual who's trying to build your own business, I would suggest that the easiest way for you to tackle and kickstart this is start by I. What do? I help, I empower, I assist, I create, I suggest, something that goes with I blah blah. And from there, it's much easier for you to kind of segment out the things that also is something that you do, but is not quite essential enough to go into the roof of your building, your brand key message. So after you've identified, okay, Joyce has told me to identify my key message that needs to be lifted up by these 3 pillars. I've identified that. I know I help blah, blah, do blah, blah, to blah, blah, right? Something that's very simple, a 1-sentence structure there. Now, in order for you to consistently convey that message, just like a content marketer would do for their clients, is that you need to be always creating content that supports it. So quite literally, if you're a visual thinker like myself, you need 3 pillars to support that message. And in the content marketing sense, these 3 pillars are essentially open-ended topics that you can create content on forever. Pretty much so open-ended that you can always talk about it. So I think that's one of the mistakes that a lot of people jump into, not just when they're trying to create their content calendars, but also when they try to create consistent content. They drive themselves too narrow into one specific execution. Let it be, I just want to create videos, or I just want to create carousels, or I just want to create downloadables. That's a format of content, but that will really drain out what kind of like what we talked about in the last monthly webinar about creativity. There are that need of restriction and boundaries. However, you need to give yourself enough room to elaborate and create new ideas and get different insights to put into your magic box. So content pillars are the same idea. You want open-ended topics that supports your roof, which is your key brand key message. Now, as an example, if I were to take back myself, I help entrepreneurs create content strategies to drive growth. Now, there are certain keywords in there, right? I help them. I use that very often because I assist. I'm somebody who's like a guide. I don't just create it for them, or I don't use the word provide. I help them. That means that when I think about that word, and since I value that word a lot, that becomes one of the core messages of the things that I want to include in my content pillar. So long story short, because I help someone, what is the way that I help them? I educate. I share my ideas. I produce things that can equip them, that can empower them, that can educate others who might be interested in content marketing or forming their own business or becoming a marketer themselves. I educate them because I help them. So that's the first keyword that I pulled out from my key messaging platform. I help them. Therefore, I pulled that out and I put it in my first content pillar. It has to be something that's educational, value-driven. Somebody can come in, take that, and start executing and actioning it themselves. So that is my pillar number 1. So take a pause there. Remember, we're going to go through the rule of 3 under 3 things. That's the number 1. You need 3 content pillars. And my example here is I pulled out 1/1 of the keywords of my brand key message platform, and I elaborated that into an open-ended topic that serves as my first pillar to support this roof. So that being educational driven, equipping people, that's my first pillar. Now, as an example, as we go on, I help entrepreneurs create a content strategy. So my second pillar is really talking about the entrepreneurial lifestyle, right? What are the specific things that helps an entrepreneur? How about myself as an entrepreneur? What struggles do I face as I'm creating content, as I'm trying to grow the reach of my business? There is where I use my second pillar, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs. It could be encompassing things like guides for entrepreneurs, sharings for entrepreneurs, but most specifically, what I have dived into here and tested that worked really well are personal stories. So if you are familiar with my content and you know that on my website, joyceangcontentmarketing.com, we have a little button on the top right-hand corner that says VIP newsletter. That's the newsletter where I share all of my entrepreneurial behind-the-scenes learnings. And that really is one of the key content within my second pillar, which is about the entrepreneurial lifestyle. So I share a lot about that. And that being my second pillar opens a range of opportunities when it comes to what content I can create, because it's really about my journey, my experiences. And that, as you can imagine, can go on for very long, unless, of course, unless I give up being an entrepreneur, then that content pillar comes to a stop. But because for the story's sake, I have started a business, I will continue growing it. It supports the roof, which is my key messaging platform. Now, the last pillar. So what did Joyce do with the last pillar? I help entrepreneurs create a content strategy to drive growth, right? To drive growth. So growth becomes my third most important keyword when it comes to the last content pillar. The last content pillar, therefore, gives people really actionable seeings and experiences to see how it can actually drive growth. So I have things like testimonials by my clients, right? Case studies, or even my own data and metrics where I share with people and tell them, hey, I've tried this and I was able to achieve this. This is what I've been able to do using content to drive growth. And what's very interesting out of this last pillar here is that a lot of my audiences, including, for example, today, I've just interviewed a very large list of candidates who are interested in working at joyceandcontentmarketing.com. One of them asked, how do you keep creating so much content? How do you do it? Because your consistency itself already inspires me and makes me think, what can I do for my own self when it comes to learning more or becoming a better marketer, or maybe venturing into starting a business myself as well. So what a lot of businesses oversee, and of course this has been learned as well, it's not something I started off anticipating and planning, but it's something that my audiences tell me time and time again. Joyce, sometimes it's not even about what you say or how you say it, whether it's like this, like a webinar, like a sharing, like a talk, like a social media post on LinkedIn. It's just the fact that you're always there. You are always there. You go on LinkedIn, I see Joyce. I search content marketing Hong Kong, I see Joyce. To an event and I get to ask other people about content marketing, Joyce's name very likely comes up as well. You're always there. You're always present. And by that, I would say it is still the credit is to content because of the consistency of creating content. That simple consistency of just constantly showing up and not just thinking about how much views did I get, how many likes did I get, how many engagements did I get, just the pure act of hard work and showing up could already be something that is discovered, elaborated, and exemplified in a content pillar itself. So just the act of me updating every single day is already fueling that pillar. And in turn, what you get here is that those three pillars, educate, entrepreneurship, and growth, which are beneath and taken from my brand key messaging platform, becomes my three key content pillars. And that has started really from 4 years ago, since day one, when I started Joyce and Content Marketing. And what I can tell you is it doesn't go old. That is still my brand key messaging platform. Those are still my content pillars. However, the only thing that has changed is the execution of these content. We need to stay updated with short videos, reels, entertainment, edutainment, and all these other ranges of formats when it comes to content. However, these are the things that keeps your engine running. Tying back to that is, this is how you set up a content pillar and a content calendar that lasts you maybe even for a lifetime. Because the structure of your architecture, of your building and the foundation remains the same. The stories that you're telling within each of these pillars can always change based on the time. And they can very likely become timeless and content that people refer to after years, which is what I find as well on my website with my blogs. They literally they renew themselves. New audiences come in and then they read things that I've posted maybe 1 or 2 or even to the extreme 4 years ago. And they still remain relevant, but only because they are still supporting the same brand message. They are still presenting the same idea. So that consistency I would say, is the number one step you need to attain and think about before even going in and downloading this and highlighting that and putting this down on your calendar. Most important thing here, out of our rules of 3 for today, which is the number one rule of 3, set up 3 content pillars for your brand. Do that first. Set those up first. Now, take a slight pause here. If you have any questions about how you can devise your brand key message platform, how can you segment that into content pillars, feel free to leave a comment below. Or you can always reach out. You know where to find me. Just search Joyce San Content or Joyce San Marketing. I'm going to bound to pop up somewhere. But that would be when it comes to how I set up a content calendar as a content marketer, how I do it for clients, or how I would definitely advise anybody who's hoping to create a brand and use online content or even offline content, or use just content essentially to extend their reach. Always start with our first rule of 3s, establish 3 content pillars. So that's number 1. That's the first thing you need to do. What's the second thing, Joyce? I've done that. I've done my brand key messaging platform. I've identified my 3 content pillars. You don't need to know how you're going to execute it right off the bat. You do not need to know that. We're really talking about setting up your content calendar first. Okay, how do you set it up? Okay, this is the focus for today. So the second step here is your second rule of 3, and that is you need to set this up under your content calendar. When you're blocking it out under your content calendar, you need 3 posts every single week. 3 to 4 posts, I would say, but for the ease of understanding what we're saying today, rules of 3, first, 3 content pillars, 2, 3 posts a week. At least 3 posts a week. So I would invite you now to take out your calendar, just any calendar. It could be a written calendar. It could be something that I have here as well, something that looks a bit like this, a 2025 calendar, and have that out, okay? So I'll give you a few seconds. Just have a calendar out. Look at a calendar first while I take a sip of water. So obviously, if you're opening a desktop calendar or a calendar that looks like this, every single month starts on a different day, right? Self-explanatory. But let's just look at the ones with a full week, okay? So I'm looking at this month, 2025 March. We have Sunday here that starts on the 2nd. That's a full week, full week, full week, full week. And that's kind of like a nice building block where we just have, this one big block. So Joyce is telling me, okay, I need to post 3 per week. 3 per week. The most obvious thing to do is not to just, put them all on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? It just visually makes more sense and logically makes more sense to kind of space them out. So when I'm looking at something like March as a month, well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday makes sense, right? 1 post on Monday, 1 post on Wednesday, and 1 post on Friday. Now that ends up with 3 posts for, let's just put that as week 1, right? Very, very simple. Now, instead of going through every single week and say, okay, I did 1 on Monday, does that mean, Joyce, I just want to do posts every single Monday, every single Wednesday, and every single Friday? No, that is not correct. No, you do not want to do that. Reason behind that is then you will only always get data from Monday posting, Wednesday posting, and Friday postings without knowing the power or the difference when you post on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, and Sundays. You would never know. So this is kind of like a very old school way to do it. There has been like maybe 7, 8 years ago where people just like, I'll just schedule everything Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But if you've ever done scientific experiments in high schools or primary schools, things like that, you want the biggest pool of data. You don't want to just focus in on just 3 days. So, okay, Joyce is saying that I need 3 days in week 1. I've picked Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 3 posts. What do I do on the next week? Now, the easy thing is, here is another rule of 3, so to call. Just think in 3s. This will really help you. Think about Monday as the starting point and go down on a diagonal. Go down on a diagonal. So I'm just going to show you this at a closer, right? If I've chosen Monday in March, diagonal means the 11th, the 19th, the 27th. That gives me a diagonal, right? A diagonal right there. Now, the second day would be Wednesday, which is the 5th. Joyce is telling me I should just schedule on a diagonal. 13th, 21st, 29th, right? And then the last day is the 7th on the Friday, right? 7th, 15th. Just imagine that goes across, which goes to the Sunday. So that goes to the 16th here. And then the 24th. And it goes down that way. And what you end up is 3 posts every week with 3 diagonals going down your calendar at a month. 3 posts every week going down a calendar diagonal, and you end up with 3 diagonals. That is what you want to achieve on your content calendar. Because then it solves the problem we just mentioned. You're definitely going to have a big pool of information after any of your posts goes out, because it goes across the whole week, across the whole month, consistently 3 posts a week, each apart, not more than 2 days at maximum. All of them is either 1 day apart or 2 days apart, because there's a Saturday and a Sunday, right? So then what you have is a very easy, visually easy to understand way to schedule out your content calendar. Anyone can do it. If you have a kid and you want them to help you out, even your kids can do it. Help mom or help dad, help me. Write out the 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, go down and draw a line in a diagonal. That is what you want to achieve with your monthly content calendars. That is the easiest way to go through the whole month and to be able to cover every single day, gather enough data, understand if there's any difference in posting for every single day, because there might be. Maybe your audiences are more active during Tuesdays. Maybe they're less active during the weekends because they take weekends off and they, are off social media. Maybe that's the case. But you will never know unless you schedule your content calendar like this. So this is the rule number 2. The number 2 rule of 3 is that you schedule 3 posts per week and go down on 3 diagonals. And then whether it's an Excel sheet or a pen and paper written down calendar, or you do have a content management tool, you know exactly where your placeholders are. So placeholders, by meaning you block out that and tell yourself, I need to create something and put it in there. I need a post to go out there. Now, if you've been paying attention, you would say, okay, Joyce, why didn't we start with step 2, rule of 3, number 2, which is 3 posts and then go at a diagonal as post number 1, as the number 1 rule for today's session? Well, because you wouldn't know what to put in there. What content? You're telling me 3 makes a lot of sense, but when you really boil it down, that's 12 posts a month. Maybe for certain people, that feels like a lot. 12 posts, very overwhelming. This is my first beginner starting to try and understand how to set up a content calendar for my brand. And you're asking me 12 posts. I can't do that. That's too much. There's the fix. Step 1 of our rule of 3. You already have 3 content pillars. Just put them in. And the best way to put them in is pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3. And then when you go down on a diagonal, pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3, pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3, whatever it is. Or if you like pillar 1, pillar 3, pillar 2, pillar 2, pillar 1, pillar 3, whatever it is. As long as every week you have one of each. One of each. Pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3. That is so simple, so easy. I actually feel like I'm whipping up a easy bake recipe, right? Because then you have the 3 pillars, you know what it is. You have the 3 posts every single week. They go down a diagonal, 3 diagonals, and I just put it in. This is about pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3. Oh, maybe I want to start with pillar 3 on the next week. That's fine. Pillar 3, pillar 2, pillar 1. Maybe on the third week, I want to do pillar 2, pillar 1, pillar 3. It does not matter, because once you start scheduling that way, what you have every single month is, number 1, you always have every single one of your content pillars showing up on your calendar, which means it's very consistent. You're not just talking about education for me as an example all the time. You're not just talking about yourself all the time. It's always going to have that consistency because it's scheduled based on your content pillars. Number 2, you're always going to have 12 posts. Because when you think about 12 posts, that might be a lot, very overwhelming. But at the end of the day, you're really just creating 4 posts every pillar. Oh, I just need to come up with 4 things I want to teach people, 4 things that I do as an entrepreneur, 4 things that I can help drive growth. That's actually not a lot. It's really about my putting them down into categories and easy to understand structures and systems for you to get used to. It's a habit. So that's number 2. You will always have 12 posts. And the third thing is you will always cover the whole calendar every single month. No doubt. Because at the most we have 31 days, at the least you have 28, but you can still always go down a diagonal. Just cross them off. Pillar 1, done. Pillar 2, done. Pillar 3. Oh, I have one more extra pillar 3. I don't know when to schedule it. Oh, here, I have this on a diagonal. I have the next pillar 3 post here. Put it in. So if you're starting to think about it this way, a content calendar is so easy to do, and it's so easy to manage if you have that system in place. You just need to start off at the end of every month or at the beginning of every month, block those down, start putting in content. And going back to the question that I had people ask me all the time, Joyce, how do you create so much content by yourself, most of the time by myself, every single month? It's because ideas come up. Today, I have a story I want to tell about what it means to be an entrepreneur. I've already filled in my calendar for March, but I don't have to keep it somewhere, force myself to remember it, none of that. All I need to do is go down the next month, my diagonal. That's the pillar about sharing my stories. Just put that in. What you then have is an accumulation of all these content topics that you've already come up with maybe months ago. I have things that's, all scheduled down until June. But once you look at it, you know what it is. Ah, yes, I remember this. I'm going to write it now. That's what we call, if some of you have searched online, that's what we call batch creating. And there's no point in batch creating if your ideas are forced. Batch creating for me really means you already have all this structure, you already have all these ideas. It's put under all these placeholders so that when you're working towards, let's just put it this way, right now is March, when I work towards April, the ideas are already there. Then I can batch create. I already have the key points. Okay, education post about this. It doesn't take that long. The maximum time that I use to fill in the content calendar for Joyce and content marketing, which is way more extreme than 12 posts, by the way, but just to make it simple to digest right now, is 4 hours. As long as I allocate 4 hours in the beginning of the month, I fill all that in. And throughout the month, whenever I have new ideas or I come out a really interesting article or I've been featured somewhere, boop, it goes on to that content calendar, one of the diagonals under the right respective content pillar. That is how I do it as a content marketer, as well as a solopreneur, really pretty much on my own, and be able to create a consistent calendar throughout all these years. Rule of 3. 3 content pillars, 3 posts per week. That doesn't sound that hard, right? That doesn't sound that hard. But before you think, all right, I could do that, that's an end. Most resources that you find online when it talks about content calendar is really that. They just say, set up this calendar in this way and you're done. La-di-da, everything is great. And, rainbows are in the air. If you've actually started doing this without a framework, without a structure like that, probably by month 3, month 4, you'll be burning out, right? Because you're constantly having to vomit out different ideas for this. So how do you keep yourself filling in these placeholders? You can have all these placeholders all you want, but if you have no ideas, if you don't know what to create, then you're kind of stuck, right? And there's no what we call a consistency. So what most resources kind of do not talk about and don't mention when they're talking about content calendars, which I really want to highlight today, is our third rule. The third rule. Rule of 3's third rule is that you always, at the end of every single month, need to figure out your top 3 posts and your bottom 3 posts. Top 3, bottom 3. So let's take a pause. Let's go through what we've went through today as well, just so we're all in the same state of mind and understanding, right? Okay, Joyce said, step 1, 3 content pillars pull out from every single most important keyword in my roof, which is my brand key messaging platform. I take that, I go to my content calendar, and then I select 3 placeholders for the first week, which are 1 to 2 days apart. I use that and set up my diagonal, and then I put in my content pillars for every single week. Now I've created these content, I've scheduled them out. Again, it could be automatically scheduled, and for posting, you can do it manually. It really just is up to you. The convenience is there if you have a marketing tool, but then again, right, we're not really deep diving into that. But once you have those, I have those. I know what is going out tomorrow. I know what is going out the day after that. I have those all out. Now I have to get ready for month 2, and I feel stuck. I know how to set this all up. I know all the placeholders, but I'm just bummed. I don't have any ideas. I know that I want to talk about education. I know I want to talk about driving growth, but what do I talk about? What is the exact thing that I talk about? Do I have to come up with this every single month? How do you do it? How do you actually do it? That's why. Number 3 of the rule. The third rule of 3, top 3 post, bottom 3 post. Now it has to be done this way. Why? Because you need the 12 posts every single month in order for you to have big enough of a pool to pull out 3 top posts and 3 bottom posts, right? If you're only creating 10 posts, or if you're only creating 9 posts, your pool and your spectrum of these metrics, of these data, of these performance of each content is not wide enough for you to gather valuable insights. If you're only creating 5 posts, there's not even enough for you to carve out 3 top and 3 bottom. You only have 5 posts. And for me, that is really a waste of effort. It is true. Creating too little content could be a waste of effort because you don't have enough to gather valuable insights for you to derive what you need to create next. If you're doing so little this month, how can you use that to advise you what to do next month? So 12 posts is the rationale as to why I am suggesting the rules of 3. Because for step 3, you need to be able to pick out 3 top posts and 3 bottom posts. Now, knowing that, what does that mean, Joyce? Now, of course, I don't want to dive into too much of the technicality of like, oh, where's your funnel? Is it top funnel, bottom funnel? Is it an ad? Is it this? Is it that? Let's just make it very, very simple and think about this in an even more 101 beginner's way, because this is meant to be easy. It's not meant to give you a headache at the end. So when you're talking about the top 3 posts, what I would say is look for the biggest metric on your platform. You could have very little followers, very little reach, but what is the biggest metric? Usually your biggest metric would be either views or impressions. Most of the time you don't really get reach nowadays. They really want people to create videos, so it has been changed to views. But if for some odd reasons you still see the reach and you see that reach is the most biggest metric on your back end, then use that. But the biggest metric, you want it to be biggest. And what I mean biggest, I don't even mean up into the 3 digits. I don't even mean hundreds. If you only have a dozen, that is fine. You can still do this practice. It doesn't matter. So let's just say that you just started this account. You've created 12 posts, and the biggest metric you see in your backend is views. For this video, I got 93 views. Great. That is the top viewing video I have. Perfect. Put it down as one of your top posts or your top 1 post, number 1 of your top posts. What is the next post? Oh, the next post is 75 views for this post that I did. Great. Put it down. Write it down. You have to log it somewhere. Don't just remember it. Log it somewhere. Print screen it. Write it down on a notepad, whatever it is. Again, just write it down. What is your third top performing post? Remember, don't jump from metrics. You're still sticking with views if that is what you've chosen. Well, my third top viewing post is on 60. I have 60 views for this post. Perfect. You have your top 3 posts of that month. Label it. Label it. March. Top 3 posts. Number 1, print screen. That's the post. It had 93 views. Number 2, it has 75 views. It has 60 views, so on and so forth. Top 3. List those 3 down. Before you deep dive, don't make any assumptions. Don't look at them and try to devise them. Don't do that. Go straight to your bottom 3 posts. What are the bottom 3 posts? Oh, my worst post only got 10 views here. Great, put it down. 9 views here. Great, put it down. 2 views here. Perfect, put it down. That is actually the best pool of metrics you can get. It's not really about how huge the numbers are, but how different the numbers are. And again, going back to our rule 2 of our rule of threes, you have to have that big of a pool, at least of 12 posts, for you to generate those metrics. The more different, the better. You get more insights that way. So then, okay, I followed you, Joyce. I did that. 3 top posts, 3 bottom posts, all based on views. Now what do I do? Very, very simple. Go to your top post as well as your bottom post and identify the content pillar that they are in. Now, you might think self-explanatory, so simple, very easy. What I can tell you is most brands that I worked with, clients that I work with, are unable to do that. They are not able to do that. Why? Because they did not start off with our rules of 3 step 1. They don't have things allocated based on their content pillars. And that results in, at the end of the month, if they want to drive any kind of insights from what content works well and what doesn't, they don't have a lot of benchmark. There's not a lot of indication. What I would say is it's a pure guessing game. It becomes just a guess. Oh, maybe it's a video. Maybe it's a visual. Maybe it's a text. Maybe it's a time of posting. You're putting yourself in a very bad position by scheduling and doing your content calendar that way. Because then, going back to the point that I left off in just several minutes ago, you don't know what to create next month. You're guessing. Every single month, you're guessing. You're just assuming that it works with no qualitative or quantitative facts, or at least some sort of data for you to actually understand why certain things work well and why certain things do not work well. That is a problem. So therefore, again, remember to start with our rules of 3, start with the first rule, 3 content pillars. Schedule them, 3 posts per week, go down at a diagonal, and allocate your postings. Post those at the end of every month or at the beginning of every month. Pick out your top 3 posts and your bottom 3 posts. Then you label them. Okay, my top post number 1 this month for March was from my education pillar. And what I can tell you is within 3 months, it's very likely that you start seeing a pattern. Hey, it's always my education pillar that ranks the best. It's always this pillar that ranks the worst. Why? Then you're starting to gather insights. That's when you're really starting to understand your content performance instead of having it as a guessing game. It can take as short as 3 months, trust me, because when I do it for clients, it's the same. When they ask me, Joyce, why am I hiring you to create content that you say is going to drive growth? Because we can figure it out in 3 months. It's a guarantee. It's not because I'm smarter than everybody else. It's not because I'm a better pattern spotter. None of that. It's because we derived it from a system. There is a tested system. There are 12 posts and we are able to pull out the metrics that we need. So therefore, with that, you identify the pattern, you start seeing it. You don't even need to remind yourself. You start looking at it, you're like, oh yeah, this always comes up. And from there, you can already tell. For my next month, I should be doing something related to this because it worked so well last month. I shouldn't be doing this because it worked really bad last month. I should think about another way to do this pillar. Maybe it's not infographics. Maybe it's not a video. Maybe it's not a webinar. Maybe it's not this. But then you're able to eliminate stuff. This is not worth my time. It's not working. I've tried it and it's not garnering half of what my top post does. There's definitely a problem. Let's try something else. Let's look at what other people do. Let's do a bit of research. Let's consider what my competitors do. See, now you get this clearer directional advice just from looking at your own content. And that is essentially the way how a content marketer should be doing it. Because now you have some ground to stand on when you're looking at your content and being able to actually analyze them somewhat more scientifically than just trying to guess or chasing the next gold object, flashy thing that other people are doing. And maybe you spend a lot of time and effort in doing it and it doesn't work for you. Or even if it does, what are you going to do next month? You don't know. That is one of the most detrimental things that can happen. And most of the time why clients come to somebody like myself, because they're just running out of ideas, right? I don't know what worked well, or I don't know why it worked well. What should we do next? And just being able to identify what works well and what doesn't work well makes a whole lot of a difference. And what I can tell you, hopefully based on all the things that I've mentioned up to this point, is that it can all be done through just setting up a content calendar properly with our rules of three. 3 content pillars, 3 posts per week, 3 top posts, 3 bottom posts. And that is just a system once you get used to, regurgitate every single month. Just do that every single month. And the content would showcase to you exactly what works well, what doesn't work well, what requires improvement, what maybe even the best case scenario here is what can be turned into a series. What can you continually do? Because it's tough. It's tough even for me to come up with new content ideas every single month. It's always going to be tough. But the weapon or the arsenal that I have is I have previous data. If I'm stuck for this month, let's look at what happened last month. How about the month before? How about last quarter? What happened? What was done the best last quarter? Can we repurpose that? Can we do that again in a different way? Can we talk about it in a different manner? Can we just maybe just repost it, but update the photo? There are so many cheats and so many ways to repurpose your content, but you can only do it if you've done that legwork of the rules of three. Let that simmer in a bit while I take a sip of water, but let that simmer in. If you have any questions, or if you can't really visualize how that really happens, very simple. Go on Joyce Sang Content Marketing, Instagram. You start seeing the 3 pillars. Oh, she's talking about herself here. Oh, she's talking about what she's done for her clients here. Oh, she's talking about what a content marketing is, what content strategies are. It's the same stuff, same pillar, just a different way of execution. So that really is the rules of three when it comes to how you can actually set up a content calendar, just like a content marketer like myself. And I believe that anyone can do it. You just needed some sort of guidance, some sort of inspiration, some sort of what we call like a tested framework, a way to do it. But what I can tell you is if you just kind of go online and search, because I've done it a lot myself, I'm constantly looking for new ideas, ways to do it better, is that they are so simmered and rooted in just the tactical executions, maybe templates, maybe content ideas, 100 content ideas. I've seen those lists thousands of times. When you try to replicate yourself, it's really hard because you have to go through every single thing and you have to use a template. Maybe it doesn't really work for your business. Maybe it, simply put, maybe it just doesn't work for your preference as a person. I don't want to live my life this way. I don't want to be scheduling every single Sunday. It's not my thing. Then don't. Right? Even when you're doing the step 2 of our rules of 3, just don't schedule on the Tuesday for the first month, right? And just put in those placeholders, have them as an idea, place them there. So when you get to batch creating or actually posting content, it's so much easier. Running out of ideas, go back to your metrics last month. Pull out from there. What could be done better? What could be done more effectively? What other things can you try? So for today, that is really the summary of it. The rules of 3. I hope that really helps you and equips you as an entrepreneur or a freelancer, slasher, business owner, or somebody who works under marketing to really nail it down, how you can optimize the way you schedule a content calendar and set it up. Because I've done it for 4 years or more when I previously was working for other companies. That's exactly the way I do it too. And if I could do it and sustain it as an individual, I promise you'll be able to do it too. So before we wrap up, if there's any questions again about how you can create a content calendar, if you're stuck with your brand key messaging platform, if you're still figuring out your pillars, if you're looking at the data and getting confused, just a message away. Go to joycentcontentmarketing.com. On the bottom right, there is a chat bot. You say, hi, I get a message. I'll try to reply to you as soon as I can, but that's the easiest way to reach out to me. If you want more inspirations as to how I create all these consistent content as an entrepreneur, you can follow me on Instagram, but most importantly, maybe consider my EDM. subscribe to my VIP newsletter, which goes out every single month once. And there's just jam-packed a lot of different ideas that I come across and I find interesting. And I write that. And I have a lot of responses from my readers there that they actually look forward to receiving it. There's a lot of really cool things that I find there, hopefully to inspire you on your journey when it comes to creating content as well. And of course, last but not least, if you really are looking for specific help, maybe you're trying to persuade your boss, hey, let's look into content marketing. Let's look into that. I think that would really help our business. Point them my way. We can always just chat free for 30 minutes. Ask me any questions, just get all the answers and bounce. I'm fine with that as well. Because at the end of the day, I want to help entrepreneurs create a content strategy to drive growth. And if at the end of the day you can do it yourself, it's great. I will love that. I would love for you to also spread and become an advocate of content marketing. Even if you don't work with me, that is fine. I enjoy talking about this. That's how I've been talking and sharing my insights in the past hour with you all. So I hope you enjoyed this session. And if ever you have any other topic sessions that you're interested in, DM, send it through. I would love to know. Leave a comment below. Any one of your comments and interactions really fills me with joy and motivates me to continue to do more work on this. So hopefully this has been helpful. Rules of 3. I look forward into hearing you all and seeing you all put that into action. If I can do it, you can do it too. Have a great evening, great good morning, great day ahead.